Hey, today we have with us Dr. Richard Alley from the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences at Penn State University in the Department of Geoscience. And we're really happy to have him as we talk about the WPSU science around the globe. And some of his research has really studied ice sheets and how it predicts the future of climate change and sea levels. So we're really interested to hear what he has to say today, and I'm sure he's going to give us some great insights. So just as we get started, Dr. Alley, how did you get interested in some of this material?
Right. So way back, I loved going to national parks. I used to collect rocks. I had a little lapidary unit, so I'd cut and polish rocks. So when I went to college, Ohio State University, I wanted to be a geologist. And I needed a summer job to pay for tuition. And there were 2 summer jobs open, and one of them was helping the glaciologist. And I had no idea what that was, but it paid money and it sounded like fun. And he got me, Ian Willens, fantastic person. He had me looking for the fallout from atomic bomb tests across Antarctica, because we knew what year the bombs were blown up and we could see the radioactivity, and the amount of snow on top of that tells you how much it snowed. We were looking for reflections from the fallout of giant volcanic eruptions, because you could see how the ice was being buried by the snowfall and how the flow was deforming it. And I was a glaciologist.
Well, that's really cool. Obviously we're at Penn State, and you've done some research around the globe. And could you discuss a little bit about your lab and your team members? Because I know it's not an individual effort. You could discuss a little bit about your team and your lab and what they do.
Yep. So Penn State is a powerhouse in studying the big ice sheets and mountain glaciers as well. And we do this broadly. If you take an ice core through an ice sheet, there's a history of climate in the layers. So we read the climate. There's an immense amount of water frozen as ice in Greenland, Antarctica, and some up in mountain glaciers. If that melts, the ocean rises and the coasts flood. And the glaciers and ice sheets have made beautiful things. A lot of the food that we eat is grown on the deposits of glaciers that smoothed the landscape and left brilliant soils. How did they do this? How did glaciers make Yosemite beautiful? So we study all of these at Penn State, and it's a big group. And so it involves going to the ice and finding out what's going on top, what's in and what's under. And this is especially done by geophysics, making noise, seismic studies, and listening to the reflections, making electrical noise, radar, and listening to the reflections, watching what's going on. We've worked a little bit with weather station data and others, go with people who drill through the ice and then study the ice and what is in it and what are the grains and the bubbles and so on going on. And then we work with remote sensing, and Penn State is a power in remote sensing of the ice sheets, the satellites going over the top, looking down, how fast is it going, how is it changing, where is it melting, and so on. And then all of this we put into simple, complicated models. Can we understand it? Can we make it work together? Can we predict the future? And so we are also a powerhouse in models. So we sort of do it end to end. It's fantastic, brilliant people doing this, and several professors and students and staff and what have you. But we go all the way from designing and building the instruments to taking the results of the models and taking them to the public and to the policymakers and saying, this is what we know.
Well, that's really great opportunities for some students too as well, I'm sure. As we're looking at the current research, is there any current research that your department or yourself are completing? And you spoke a little bit about the environmental impacts of that research, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So probably the single biggest thing we're working on now is this question of ice sheet collapse. We are warming the world. This is primarily because we're burning fossil fuels and releasing the CO2. This is very, very well understood. When it gets warmer, ice melts. And if we melt a lot of ice, we take water that should be on top of Antarctica or on top of Greenland or on top of a mountain, we put it in the ocean comes up and people flood. And this is not good if you live near the coast, or it's not good if you like to go to the beach, or you don't want environmental refugees moving in on you because they're fleeing the rising ocean. So we worry about this. It's very clear that as we warm the world, the ocean rises. But there are some possible tipping behaviors in this. And if we keep the warming small enough, most of the ice will still stay where it is. And if we get a little too much warming, there's a chance that the flow of the glaciers will change, the rate at which ice flows into the ocean, the rate at which icebergs break off the front of the cliffs, and we may get a lot more sea level rise. And so the big push now from us, and really from a lot of the world's glaciologists, is to characterize these tipping points. How much space do we have? Do we really have to worry about this, or is there a safety cushion? How do icebergs break off? How does melting affect how they break off? This is a hugely complicated, interwoven thing, and it's really hard. It's really hard. Flow of things is fairly easy. If I had my coffee cup and I pour the coffee out, you know it will flow across the floor, and we can predict that pretty well. If I dropped my coffee cup from an inch high, it's not going to break. If I threw it off the top of a 30-story building, you know it's going to break. But think of all the coffee cups you've ever seen dropped from my heights. And some of them bounced, and some of them cracked, and some of them chipped, and some of them broke into smithereens. We're trying to predict breaking off of icebergs in that zone where it's not obvious. And so this is a really, really hard thing, and it's going to take all of us and a whole lot people more to try to get this right.
As we move into talking about students and young students, so just a thought I had on that was, what's some things that maybe young kids could do today to, this is obviously a problem that's going to be here for a long time. What are some things that the young students could maybe do today to help?
Yeah. So what we know, and we actually do know this, that if we build a sustainable energy system for the future, with respect, with commitment, that it helps the economy as well as the environment. The Nobel Prize in economics went to someone I worked with on a committee once, William Nordhaus of Yale, for showing that wise response on energy and climate helps the economy as well as the environment. It helps employment as well as ethics. It helps our health. It helps our national security. And there is expertise at Penn State in the national security issues of this as well, that if we build a sustainable energy system for the future, we really do help on money as well as environment. And there's so many opportunities now, right? So you become an engineer and you design the new thing, the new solar cells, the new geothermal energy, the new wind turbine that does even better. You become a business person and you figure out how to make this work. You become an artist and you help people understand it. Or you go into the communications end with your art and your writing and WPSU, and you let people know what we know. And you find ways to use this knowledge to help people with their health. Heat stress is bad. You don't want to, people are designing fabrics that will help us avoid heat stress now. There's all this vast world of new businesses, new jobs, and new inventions that can make us better off. We can do well by doing good. We can do good by doing well.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess lastly that I have is what advice would you give a young student today? Could be an elementary student, could be a middle school student or a high school student that's really interested in this research or entering this field.
All right. So first of all, do things that you enjoy. If you hate it, it's not going to work. So you're interested now. This is really good. Second of all, you're going to need schoolwork. And this does include some math and some science, but it also includes some history and some English and some languages. And so keep with the schoolwork, learn the stuff. It really is fun. Broaden as much as possible. Don't focus down on one thing right away, because you're likely to end up doing something a little different before you're done. So stay broad, stay interested, keep friends, take care of yourself, and then you can help take care of others.
Is there anything else you'd like to add in closing thoughts today?
We face huge challenges. We need you to help. You can have a better life in a better world than I did, and mine better than our parents and grandparents. We really can invent, build, work, collaborate, learn and teach, build and grow, and solve problems. And you can do this. And we're waiting for you to help us do it. Thank you.
All right, today, guys, for our weekly activity, we're talking about glaciers, and we're in Hank's kitchen today. And Hank, what are we going to be making today?
Glacier glue.
We're going to be making some glacier goo, and we're going to mix it together. We've really made 2 batches. We're going to show you how to make one, because we've already made the blue batch, and we're going to make the white batch now before we mix them together. So Hank's going to go through some things. I'll show you the materials. Hank's going to make it, and hopefully you guys can do this at home. So right now what we need is probably a mixing bowl. We're going to need about 4 ounces of warm water, 8 ounces of school glue, some borax, a spoon, probably to get the glue out of the mix, and a spatula maybe to help you there. And we have blue food coloring that we made the blue glacier goo earlier with. All right, so Hank, we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the glue in the bowl. We can use a spatula to get as much out of there as we can. Doesn't have to be exact. Can be approximately 8 ounces. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to do our best. All right, that's perfect. So then next thing we're going to do, at this point, if you were going to make the blue, you would put 10 drops of food coloring into the glue. All right, so we're not going to do that. We've already done it. Hank, we're going to take 1 big teaspoon of borax and mix it into the water. Water's warm. It's not hot, it's just warm. And we're going to mix it. Doesn't have to all be dissolved. And as we start mixing it, you want me to help you pour that in? Okay, Hank will pour that in. We're going to start mixing the glue at the same time. And as you pour the borax in, the glue starts to form what is called some polymers and starts to become a gooey, slimy substance, stringy. And once you feel like it is stringy, you can get your hands in there and mix it. How's it feeling, Hank?
A little bit more for the spoon.
A little bit more for the spoon, okay.
I think we're good now.
Okay. So mix that with your hands a little bit there. We can put the spoon back in that right there. We'll mix it around with our hands just to get everything mixed together best we can. And a lot of times as we're looking at glaciers and we're talking, the glaciers sometimes break off. They go into the sea, they rise to sea level, and some different things there. They can affect climate change. Climate change is definitely affecting us. We've learned that from Dr. Alley in our conversation, and we're going to try to simulate some of the flow of a glacier with this activity. So Hank, what we're going to do is we are going to put the white down. We're going to take the blue, take it down. We're going to try to mix them together. Go ahead and mix them together. And it's almost like dough, rolling dough. It's okay.
It's like putty.
It's okay. It's like putty, like silly putty, old time silly putty. There. We get it and roll it. Perfect.
There we go.
There you go. How's that feel? Pretty slimy?
Yeah.
Okay. Kids like slime?
But yeah. I think
So as we
that's
look at this, go ahead and sit that down there, Hank. As we look at this, if this was a simulated glacier, if Hank was to press down on that, then it spreads out. And the more snow that you get onto a glacier, the more spread that it can spread out. And eventually, it has to break. All right. And when it breaks, where's it go, Hank?
apart.
Apart and into the ocean. All right. It goes into the ocean. So as we take this and we look here, it also shows some movement down. If you're sliding it down the cookie sheet that we're using, it shows some movement, and a glacier can also move. All right, it's not necessarily still. So the glacier can move ever so slowly. It's not going very fast here. If we let this up here for a while, it would definitely go down to the bottom of the cookie sheet. You can do some other experiments at home on this end where you could add more water. You could add more borax. You could add less glue, more glue, and you can sort of be creative in your own. So as we finish up here today, hopefully we've learned a little bit about glaciers. We would like to thank our sponsors or our partners, ScienceU, if you want to check them out, scienceu.psu.edu/outreach/ScienceU. Offer some nice DIY science activities for home and camps for kids throughout the summer. So Hank, appreciate the help. And, hopefully you have some fun today, and we'll do it again. Maybe we'll make a rocket or something else down the road. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.